Hey everybody, I'm going to continue my series on JavaScript interview questions, and today we're going to focus on arrow functions. Uh, I did get a question about arrow functions in a technical interview that I had about a month or two ago, and I totally forgotten that I got this question, and then I was talking to my uncle, who's also a software engineer, about all the improvements that came with ES6, sometimes called ES 2015. And I had forgotten that arrow functions were a part of the ES 2015 upgrade to JavaScript. So I thought, wow, I definitely need to do a video about arrow functions. So here it is. There's three main improvements, at least in my mind, that I see that arrow functions brought to JavaScript, and I'm going to go over those three. It's basically a more concise syntax, okay, which basically means you can do the same thing with less code. It handles returns automatically, and then the way it deals with this is a little bit different than normal functions. So we're going to go over all of these, and I made a markdown file for this. Hopefully it's a little bit easier to read. I was doing just all JavaScript with comments, and it occurred to me that markdown might be easier for these tutorial videos, so hopefully you like the markdown. And here's a basic arrow function. So arrow functions are anonymous functions, but they can be assigned to variables. So the function itself doesn't have a name, but you can see we're assigning it as a const. If you're not sure what const means, I did a video on const, so you can check that out. Maybe I'll try to put a link to it up in the corner of this video. But we make a constant called add, and then we assign it this arrow function. It takes in two parameters, x and y, and then this little arrow, this equal sign and greater than sign together makes this our arrow function. And then it just returns the sum of these two values, so x plus y. If we wanted to do that in the non-arrow function way, so the vanilla JavaScript way, we would just say function and then xy. So basically instead of using this little arrow, we're using the word function. Okay, so it doesn't really save that much space in this case, but when we couple that with the automatic return, we can see that we can actually do this in a lot less space, just one line. So if we leave out the curly brackets and we put everything on one line, it will automatically return this value. So in this case, we changed it up a little bit, and we're going to double the parameter that we put in. So we're just taking x times 2. And I don't know how this got in there. That's a mistake. But it should be x times 2. And it'll just return this value. So that's pretty cool. That actually does save some space. The real useful kind of power of arrow functions, I think, comes in when we're talking about the value of this. So the value of, so normally a function has this kind of internal reference to a this value. Arrow functions don't have that. They just use the this value of whatever context you call them in. Okay, so this is cool because you can use them in a much easier way in callbacks. So here's an example of using this map and filter, which are a couple of newer JavaScript object methods. And it doesn't matter if you really know what map and filter mean at this point. I'm going to explain it. But we can take this array, which is just numbers 1 through 5, and then we're going to make an arrow function that doubles and then filters. Okay, so the double and filter function is going to take numbers, right? So on the array numbers, right? And that's kind of giving us our context, our this. Okay, we're going to then call map. Oops, What did I do? I There we go. Sorry about that. Didn't realize if I double clicked it would take me right into the file. All right. So anyway, numbers gets mapped. Okay. So what we're doing is we're going to go through each element in this array, and then we're calling this function, right? So we got our arrow here. We're calling this function and auto returning whatever we're doing here. In this case, we're doubling. So we're just going to take each element in this array and we're going to multiply it by 2. So we'll end up getting, right, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then we're taking that and we're filtering so that this essentially now becomes the result of this first function, this double function. And so we're taking this result, which remember is now an array of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And we're calling this function now and auto returning the result, which is now we only want to return the array elements that are above, so greater than 5. So remember we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 2 won't work, 4 won't work, but 6, 8, 10 would work. And if we actually ran this, we would get the result of an array 6, 8, 10. So you can see we've done all this basically in one line. It wraps onto the second line here just because of the width of my screen, but all in one line, we can now double the initial array and filter it. So that's pretty cool. That's powerful. Normally, if we had to do this, we would need to like bind the this value. It would be multiple lines of code, so many lines of code to achieve the same result. Okay, and this is actually pretty readable once you wrap your head around the auto return and the way that arrow functions handle this. Also, you have to know what map and filter mean, which I'll probably do some videos on map and filter, maybe a video on a more of a deep dive into what this means. But basically, to sum up, arrow functions can help you to write less code. Your code can be a little bit easier to read, assuming you remember a little bit about arrow functions. And it really is helpful when using these functions as callbacks, since you don't have to manually bind the value of this and keep track of it yourself. So hopefully this helps you understand arrow functions a little bit more. Once you get the hang of them, you'll find yourself using arrow functions almost exclusively. I rarely create a function that's not an arrow function anymore. There was a period when I was first learning arrow functions where I was, maybe using it sparingly, but once you get into it, I think you'll really like the concise nature of arrow functions, and definitely when you're using it with these, with map, filter, and other methods like that, you're gonna love arrow functions. So keep practicing. They can be a little tricky. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer your questions or do some more videos. And until next time, have a great day.